evening. Actually, it's almost good night. Like, it is very late at the evening. It's 10 o'clock. Today is going to be a very short video, and there's a reason for that. Today is the day that I want to go do all the stuff to finalize my father's passing here in Thailand. It took pretty much all day. I woke up at 7:30 to go and start the process. Met up with my aunt. We had a 9:30 appointment. Got to the place at 9:30 and I went to our appointment. And the first thing, you kind of get used to it being here in Thailand I'm old enough to understand how Thailand works now, and efficiency is not their key suit, I would say. They're pretty good in the service industry, admittedly, but effectively and being efficient is not one of Thailand's strong suits. And so we went to the appointment as we made it, and the crazy thing was that the guy that we made the appointment with decided he wasn't going to show up today. And it'll just be a moment like that. We just had to kind of accept the fact that he wasn't there. My aunt, who went with me to be the translator, and the witness, I guess you could say, she was extremely upset because she took the day off of work to go and be the witness for me. And when they told her that the guy's oh, he decided not to come to work today, she literally was like, why? Why didn't he come in? We set this appointment since last week. And just as a real quick aside, this PGY Tech, Piggy Tech, the clip that I purchased doesn't really work all too well with my favorite camera strap, which is by Peak Design. And it's very problematic in trying to get it to clip in to the system. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And so, as I was saying, the Piggy Tech or PGY Tech clip just doesn't like to work. It takes quite a bit of effort to actually get it to clip into things when you have the Peak Design, the little dongles that you use in order to strap a wrist strap or a neck strap to it. It's more of a pain than it should be. Enough about that. Back to what my aunt was like. She was upset. She's like, Charlie, I promise you I set this appointment. And I'm like, no biggie. It's, I don't even mean to have put it in such a nasty way, but I was like, it's Thailand, I'm used to it. I'm sure there's people that are amazing here, as well as I'm sure that there's people that are not so amazing here. But I guess the thing that really upset my aunt was that she's like, I was here for a total of about 2 weeks with only about, I want to say 5 days in Bangkok. And she tried to set up times for me to do this. She knew months in advance, and yesterday or today rather, is the only day that she was able to get it. And she expressed that on Monday, I'm going back to America and there's nothing I could do. And so she was quite upset about that when the guy was like, he didn't even show. But talking about that, there's great people here and there's not so great people here. The gentleman who was covering his shift was like, oh, well, I'll take care of you. And he did. He took great care of us. He actually was like, okay, so I am fully booked today, but the person I'm training, or this other junior of mine, she's able to fill out most of the stuff. And that's what they did. It's also why it took so long, was because she kept having to go over and asking him, hey, how do I do this? The reason they wanted the big boss to handle my case here was because it's a very unique case of an American who is claiming that his father passed away in Thailand. And being a foreigner, I don't have the Thai identification card. I don't have a Thai passport. It never really occurred to me that I should ever get one. And I love being an American. I feel that my passport and my freedoms from being an American give me so much more freedom to travel the world. Of course, there's dangers and other bad things that come with that, but weighing out the good versus the bad, I don't have to worry about a exorbitant amount of money to go visit America or trying to get a visa that could be denied to go to America if I had a Thai visa. It's why my cousins, I haven't seen them in 10 years. You know, the whole reason being is that they can't afford to chance the fact that they might get denied entry into the United States, even if they could just come live with me for 2 weeks, you know, so they wouldn't have to pay room. It was one of those things where they're not willing to do that when they could straight just go to Japan for a lower cost, which that's just such a strange thing for me to think of. Aside that case, the lady was having to figure out the situation of a foreigner trying to claim that their parent has passed, even though their parent is a Thai national. And even though I had the death certificate from the American embassy, because my father passed here in Thailand, and they had everything translated from Thai into English, and then the Thai embassy released a certificate, like a death certificate, notifying that American died abroad, and my name and my younger sister's name were put onto that document, which then had to be translated back into Thai. Mind you, this was 10 years ago that we got that document. It's been quite a while since my dad passed. I brought it back here to Thailand where I had to get it translated into Thai because the Thai death certificate doesn't have the next of kin listed as myself or my younger sister, so that we couldn't close off the Thai. When we were here, there was so much to do when my father passed. We had to go and do all the funeral rites, which is a week-long process if you're understanding of Thai cultures. You know, there's a lot of praying, a lot of spiritual acts that you have to do in order to make sure that the person that you're laying to rest is laying to rest and is going to go into wherever they need to be peacefully or pass on peacefully. And so we were busy doing all that we didn't close out everything we had to for my father. And so a lot of those documents from 10 years ago that were from the medical examiner, the hospital, etc. here, I was like blown away that they weren't readily available. You couldn't just go to the doctor or the hospital that did the procedure and get the information back. It was required that all of it pretty much was made anew. And I did a lot of work in order to get the documents ready for the Thai government. I don't even know what to call the office. It's the place, it's like a city hall almost, where you go to announce marriages, announce births, announce death. You need to let them know everything that happens. And I thought that it would have been much more succinct if the coroner or the doctor who declared the death would be the one that would go to the hospital and they would fill out a document at the hospital. And even if it was a carbon copy, which is an extremely old method, I feel, that the carbon copy would then be sent to the city hall and things would be all listed that way. It's not how it works at all here in Thailand. The left hand doesn't really talk to the right. And so it's a lot of, okay, well, we need this document. We need this document. We need this document. And it was a lot of like photocopying of my passport, of my California ID. You know, my aunt needed to have her marriage certificate. She needed to have her parents' marriage certificate. She needed to have her Thai national ID. And all this was to prove that she was related to my father. It was such a weird thing where she had to prove that she was related to my father in order to vouch that I am my father's son. And I understand the whole idea of like, you know, you don't want to just randomly have someone come up, claim to be who, you know, related to that person, particularly when they're a foreigner, and just like close out items of theirs. And so it was just a very, very strange occurrence of, okay, we need to do this now in order to confirm you're who you say you are, and then we need to confirm that I'm who I say I am, and we need to confirm that I am my father's son, who I'm claiming to be, because they don't know. And what made it really hard is not being a Thai national. Like I said, I don't have a passport or ID. Everything in their system that is related to that ID is linked So they would be able to tell that I'm my father's son if I had a Thai ID on me or created to where I was a Thai citizen, because your family tree is listed in that Thai ID. But because I'm not, it was like they had to like create this whole new system to where I could prove who I am. I had to provide all this information to them, and it was just a lot of personal information being passed over. And I will say that they do conduct themselves in a very clear and concise manner to where they're protecting your privacy. Everything that you, like all my passport copies and all my ID copies, all had lines put through certain parts of it. I had to like actually write over the copies of them saying that this copy is solely for this use, for this office use. Now, I do feel that it's silly that I had to do one for every different office that needed it, but that's how they do things here, and it's very paper heavy. I also would have figured if they just scanned it into a computer, and then on the computer, they could just have a privacy notice that just scrubs out the parts that shouldn't be, you know, little censorship bars, and they just put them over the information that is not necessary, and then over the entire thing they could just put a big red sign that says for official use only, and you know, or for whoever's eyes only, and then just email it or save it in the system. They didn't do that. I will say one really cute thing that I noticed is that they have, so your Thai ID, every Thai ID is exactly the same except for the fact that it has your personal information on it, right? Because the information on the ID is actually all in the exact same spot, they're able to actually have a little envelope that's clear. They put the ID in, and all the things that they need to censor are already censored on that clear envelope. So then they could go make a photocopy of it, and they have a censored ID, which even though they do that, they still have you write over it, and you have to write it. They won't do it for you. You have to write for whose eyes it is. You know, confidential for this official use only, which, I mean, was really cool. I like the idea a lot. I just, again, feel that it's a waste of paper. All the copies I had to pay for. My aunt covered it. It wasn't much. It was less than $1, but each copy actually there was a charge for it. And the lady that was helping us actually counted all of them and then told us what the charge for the copies were. At that office, it took about 3 hours. After talking to the lady and her boss, I actually had to go to another department and another floor to actually go talk to another gentleman for them to register me almost as if I was a Thai citizen, and they had to like secure certain data and certain facts about who I was. They had to ask me questions. You know, it was kind of like becoming a US citizen and how they ask you certain questions. Now, mine weren't government specific. Mine were specific to me. Who are you? How are you related to this person? You know, when were they born? Blah, 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 blah. And all these little things where I had to like remember facts about my dad. And it was like, okay, those were really easy. And the big thing was that my aunt, who was translating or acting as like a witness for me, she actually had to sign everything that I signed, and they have this special stamp that they do where it says that it's like, I had to sign it saying I officially announced that whatever I said is the truth or blah, blah, blah. And then underneath it is, I'm a witness or translator to, I believe the word was lum. I actually don't know what it means, but the guy was trying to tell me, or the lady was trying to tell me that it means translator or like official witness or something like that. They didn't know how to translate it in English, is all I know. And my aunt had to sign on all those docs, which is fine. Like, we got it all done. It was about 12:30. And then kind of the last thing was we had to go to the bank to close a bank account out. And my aunt already did the initial steps to trying to get this to be as quickly done as quickly as possible. Being that it was like 12:30, my younger sister and I were actually both really hungry, and they both, you know, my aunt and uncle were being very gracious, saying, hey, are you guys hungry? Do you want to go do this now, or do you want to do it later? The bank closes at 3 today. And I'm just like, let's go get it done, because we don't know what's going to happen. And they're like, okay, cool. We like that idea too. We go to the bank. They end up like, my aunt's like, this should be fast. I have all the paperwork necessary for my side. They just need your side, which was provided by the government. And so I walked in, Sat down, handed them the paperwork. My aunt handed them her paperwork, and they started doing all this like checking of things, making sure things were all approved, everything was government official. Then they needed to make a couple copy of my passport as well as my ID again. It's really important, I guess, to note that your ID is really important here in Thailand. Like, it's important to a silly extent, I would say. Theirs has a like chip like your credit card, and they put it in the machine and all your information, all your necessary information pops up. Apparently my cousin was telling me it's not as much as it probably should be. Like, they can't find your financials or anything, not like a social security number in America, but it has your address, it has who your family is, et cetera, et cetera. And not having one of those is huge, because then they're like, what is your American ID? And typically as an American, I feel that we use our driver's license, I'm sorry, mine being from California, that is what we use for IDs. And even if you were to go get an official government ID, it would be a California ID, and it would look exactly like a driver's license, except it wouldn't say California driver's license on it, it would say California ID. And so that should not be mixed up with the fact that then you also have a social security card, which is who you are as well, except the problem with that is there's no photo on it, and they need a photo ID. So they kept looking at the driver's license and going, what is this? It's like, it just tells me that you could drive. How do they track you with this? And it's like, well, there is a California driver's number or license number that's assigned to me. My sister has a different license number. And so they accepted it, but everybody was looking at it at a very strange way. They're like, what is this? Why are you handing this to me? And then they would look at the passport and be like, okay, why are you handing us a passport? Because we don't want the passport, we want your official ID. And so it was just, I handed them 2 forms of ID rather, and everyone was reluctant to accept it, but ended up accepting it. I will say that the guy at the government office, the guy that was filling in for the big boss, he was super chill and helpful in the fact that he was just like, that's how they do it in America. Like, he knew foreigners, is all I had to say. He's like, no, they don't have an ID like we do. They don't have a chipped ID. You know, they're not tracked like we are. And, you know, every time the lady was like, how do I get around this, sir? And then he would be like, fill it out like this and fill this out like that. And the silly thing is that she's filling out something on the computer, and then we have to fill out the same thing, I believe, by hand. There was just a huge chance for things to not match up. And part of going back to the government office, part of the 3 hours that were there was that, like, they didn't spell my mom's name right. We had to go do that all over again. They had to reprint that out. They didn't put my American address in correctly, so they had to go back in and do that. Like, there's just so much that could be lost when you're handwriting and typing something at the same time. And they did this at the bank too, where they're like, okay, handwrite it here, and then the lady would be working on the computer. And it's like, why don't you just type it in as I tell you, and then I'll write anything you need me to write out. I could like write it out physically, or you could just use my IDs and copy it into the computer. That way we're not having like all this paper with my private information on it just floating around. Because the funny thing that I noticed is that they messed up for my aunt and her husband, and they're just like, here, you could keep those, destroy them if you want. And they both took them back. It's like, wait, you guys don't have like a shredder right next to you in order to get rid of this information? But I mean, whatever, that might just be the Thai way, or maybe that's that specific government facility way. I'm used to working in IT where we have large bins of Shred It, which is a company that comes by, you pay them to shred all your documents. So I thought that was weird, but again, the bank took 2 hours, 2 hours. So it was 2:30. The bank was about to close by the time we were leaving. My uncle was talking to the security guard in the parking lot the entire time. They became good friends. It took that long. And all the paperwork that we prepped and all the paperwork that I provided from the government office, although they looked over it, we still had to fill out more paperwork, and there was other things that happened. And there was a thing to where they're like, okay, so the bank account has been closed out, but we need to have like another branch check everything here and make sure that we didn't make any mistakes. This is on top of the fact that we signed with a guarantor, someone that will guarantee to pay back the money should someone come and claim that they're my dad's son and I falsely was able to receive the money out of my dad's account, which it just blows my mind. They're like, it's too high of a sum. We can't just guarantee it via, your cousin or whatever. And so I ended up having to fill out more paperwork to where my aunt could then just take the money, because it's going to take 2 weeks, and obviously I'm leaving in like 3 days. And so they're going to take the 2 weeks to check all the documents, hope to God that I don't have to sign anything or do anything else. They said that all it is a check, and as long as everything passes, my aunt can come back in 2 weeks and withdraw all the cash from the account that's been closed. The caveat here is that if it doesn't get done, I have less than a year from this point to come back and do everything that needs to be done in order to officially close it. Otherwise, all the money in the account gets donated to a charity, which personally, at this point, I think is fine. Like, if it could go to someone in need, I think that's a great cause. But we'll see what happens. After that, I then went to have lunch with my aunt and her family. We went and had a little Japanese food at a place called Yoyoi at Central Market and the mill here in Bangkok. Before getting dropped off here at home, the traffic was atrocious on the way here from Central. It took 2 hours to get here, although it should have taken less than 50 minutes technically. And after getting dropped off, we were trying to decide whether we were going to go to the Lot Lot Phai, which is something I've been wanting to do. It's one of the key things that I want to do here in Bangkok. And it just ended up, the traffic was going to be too bad. I was supposed to meet up with another cousin for dinner. I really feel bad that, we hyped her up and then we had to kind of cancel out on her. But if all goes well, we'll be seeing her tomorrow. And we went to my other cousin's restaurant that I've been to quite a few times now and had a quick and delicious dinner before coming back. It is quite late now and I am tired. And although I said this was going to be a short video, I feel that it's been going on for way too long. So I'm going to call it a night, say goodnight, see you in the next video.